speaking of money making things go away.
he said more money, less problems instead of more money, more problems,
Right.
which this guy had been getting away with for the longest,
The longest.
making it be less problems with money, you know. And I say that because I want to say maybe I don't know if it was his first artist from the get that he launched, which I'm speaking of Biggie.
Hmm.
He made the most money for him, and
Yeah,
he had this
it's
song called "More Money,
more
Problems."
problems.
So
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
right. Okay,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
okay. So that's why I was like, for him, it was more money, less problems.
Right.
So which really is the other way around. I would agree with, but in this case, exactly like you were saying, just about Ti and Michael Irvins and other father celebrities alike, um, and just men in general, like paying their way out of trouble.
Hmm.
You know,
Absolutely.
trying to give back artist publishing. Like it's just been a whole what is it? Not a smear campaign, more like a damage control
Well, I think he knew
campaign.
I think he knew what was coming. So for sure, it was like damage control, like on overdrive before trying to minimize, the damage. Because what is it, the nickname they're using, brother love, right now, that he was trying to go that route to be like, right, see, like,
Brother.
because that would make sense. Because I had seen a TikTok a few months ago where they were like, that's the whole reason behind the constant name changes. Remember, it was like
Mm.
Puff Daddy, P Diddy, or it was like Puff, just like
Like
Puffy, like all these names that he was going through, was because, right, so when, like, what I guess the way they're explaining is like, right, once you kind of like, it's rebranding yourself to leave that the negative stuff, like,
yeah,
uh, with that name, and then trying to move forward,
yeah. Re-registering his name
right,
LLC
pretty much, yes.
under different names, just like businesses do in general. Because you could do that.
Hmm.
Speaking of business or standing on business, yeah, I mean, I'm learning about how much businesses change their name because of that reason.
Hmm. When there's like lawsuits, because that'll be tied on different to those things, and not like moving for, you can like separate yourself
Yeah,
and still do business, like, without having to worry about, you know well, didn't you say the pharmacies were kind of doing
yeah, yeah. So I
that?
was telling her one time, I used to work for a pharmacy, and yeah, just every so often they're just constantly mentioning about a new one opening up with a brand new name and trying to make it sound like it already existed for some time. And just in general, I was curious because I was like, hey, I didn't know, where's that one at? Like I didn't know that one existed. Like, where's that one located? And you would just hear, several parts of the nation at that point. I was just like, wait, they're in other states now, and like I didn't know it expanded that far. I thought we were just sort of local. Like or in the state only. And now that I think about it, yeah, they were like renaming and rebranding. More of renaming, and now it made sense because they ultimately shut down, which I figure was for obvious reasons that
Shady business.
yeah, that I was just like, man, you know what I'm saying, like, why'd you have to do that? It was one of the coolest jobs, but you know, like one coworker said, it was just too good to be true. That's what it was.
And usually when it is, it's for a
Yeah,
reason.
because it was a very good job. Like I loved that job, but not really loved it. I wouldn't say love, but it was cool.
It was an experience.
Yeah, yeah. And then I think they later became like a CBD service. Oh
Oh
no,
my
see,
goodness.
like yeah, came up with another name,
They're like,
different type
we're
of
we're
service.
multifaceted here.
Right, we'll just shut down, pay whatever fee we need to, right, to settle that, and let's keep it pushing. Literally,
I'm
yeah,
dead.
they're the real drug pushers. Yeah, for real.
They're like, they literally say, I'm gonna grow up and be a drug dealer.
Mm-hmm.
Legitimately.
Yep. Yep. But yeah, speaking of uh Sean Combs. That's a that you know. Now that I think about it, that too, because then that came later, right? And then he did that as a clothing and what cologne, I think, or just clothing, right?
I think it was just clothing. I'm not sure. Sean
Yeah.
John.
Oh, what did I say?
Well, you said his
Sh-
name. His
oh,
name. Yeah.
but it was Sean John.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
I don't know. Damn. See, I didn't even know that or think about that. But oh well, because you know how they're saying like now that's sort of phasing out when it's been phased out.
Yeah, whenever they're like, oh, they're, I was like, wait, what? I was like, who's still, like, I didn't even know that they were carrying that line because I'd seen it like at Burlington or like Ross, but not like, I didn't realize the department store was still like carrying it like that. But I was
True.
like, conveniently, they're, and the fact that they're like, I know it had nothing to do with the Cassie thing. I'm like, it had everything to do with that. Like,
Speaking
because,
of
like, who was even still buying that? You
exactly.
know? If anything, that, you know, it's kind of like fucked up because since the 2000s, like the 90s kind of like vibes are coming back, would have been the perfect time to like read. Because, you know, how, like Fat Farm and like, or like Baby Fat's kind of doing its
Yeah.
thing again. I'm like, that would have been the perfect opportunity, but he had to go and be a fucking, like, you know, abuser and stuff.
Not yeah. I just didn't know many people wearing his brand though. To be honest, I think it was a failed project from the get. I think it clearly like uh went out of. I honestly thought it went out of business. That entity that he started. The one, of course, that's going is Ciroc, which I keep forgetting that he has some investment in. Right? I don't think he's the owner, but
Not
he's like
anymore, I don't think.
no.
No, no, yeah, like I'm saying, like, I think at one point it was his thing, but not anymore. Like,
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
yeah.
So, yeah, just trying to come out with a new album, and I think also too because of the Keefe D confessions, mentioning his name, being involved of the Tupac's murder, and other sorts of things that Tupac had been mentioning back then too. Like ties. It just goes
Hmm.
deeper and deeper from the
What?
back in the day.
Well, I know
Like
other rappers had called him out, but it just kind of never gained any traction. I know 50 Cent's been after his ass for like a while. I think even Eminem said something
yeah,
too. Like, so it just never kind of went anywhere, you know?
he's just been untouchable. As a mogul that he is, there's just been, well, it's just coming out now, right? Like, cause you've been mentioning too how like these other rappers are not saying shit to him. Like these clips that are coming out and how he's talking to them, I'm just like, what the fuck? Or like these allegations of how he attacks certain rappers, I'm just like, how the fuck did y'all not like do something? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Right,
Like
because I'm like, when you, I'm sorry, but like
what
when
does
you're
he have on
thinking,
y'all, or
right,
what did he like strong arm you guys with
right.
for y'all not to speak about it this whole time, or like even do something at that moment? I'm just like,
Honestly, just even let this man disrespect y'all like that.
for
Like, and I
real.
get, I get if it was like, oh, you guys are up and coming artists, right? But I felt like a lot of these instances when they happened, they were already established. Like I know with J. Cole and Kendrick, I'm like they were established already. And when I think of like P Diddy, I don't think of him as like a rapper, right? Like I think of him as like mogul. So I don't see why, you know, certain things that he took offense to, I would have been like, right, Cole and Kendrick should have checked his ass, you know, and been like, I don't know. I'm like, what ties does it have? Why does it matter to mess up that relationship there? You know what I mean? Especially with like Cole being under Jay Z's label. What does that have anything to do with like P Diddy? You know what I'm saying? Like, what was he gonna mess up in that sense if he's under Jay Z? You know what I'm saying? Like,
That's the thing. It's probably just though that we're really not aware about, and what really goes on. That
right.
exactly it could have been something as to why they didn't do it that could have affected their career. You know, um, yeah, because it's just a
Um.
fraternity at this point that have
Well, I'm glad
club
that
members that
right.
we're unaware about. Because think about it, like why not just because when they say stepping down, right? Because they just
Hmm.
recently announced that he's stepping down from Revolt, right?
Good.
But it's like, why is it not he got fired from Revolt. You know what I'm saying? It's like that. I feel like they have these meetings and they're like, "Hey,
Well, technically, it's like it, with the stepping down, it's just to make it sound nicer. Like they're giving him the option, like you either gonna do this or we're gonna have to like. And do you really want to say you got fired? Does that make sense? Like they
mm.
give him the like, you know,
just to get a
respect of being like we're gonna phase you out in like a better light as opposed to we saying like we're letting you go. We give like you have to step down even if it's like by force like but um
well, right? Because they're having a discussion with him about it.
right.
I don't think they're just like, "Hey, you're messing up, man. Like, we can't have this. We gotta let you go." I think they're just like, "Hey, unfortunately, we don't want to do this, but we have to because we can't
It's
have that
affecting.
reputation
Right.
on our name, on our
Right.
brand."
Well, that's his thing. But revolt's his thing, isn't
What
it?
the hell? I don't even know.
Because
How the hell was he able to?
the reason I say that is because the chick that he's dating, one of the city girls, whatever her name is, in
Wait, what is
Miami.
Revolt?
It's like I thought it was like how like
Like a media company, kind of like
yeah.
how I guess you could say 50 Cent is starting, like his network.
So yeah, similar because it's like Revolt has other shows on it, like so it's like a station like
Okay,
kind of
see, I just
thing.
thought
Like
maybe he again, like with Ciroc, that
you know
he's
how
just
like
sort
what
of
is it?
like an investor in it.
Isn't
That's
like
it.
the Breakfast Club part of another like Hot 97? It's something like that, right? Like
Oh yeah, Hot 97.
wait, you know how like well Breakfast Club belongs on another network. It's not on its own. Like
Oh, Power 105 or Heart Radio, iHeart Radio.
yeah, so it's kind of similar to that. Like
Oh, all right.
so because we're young Miami, the girl he's like dating now, one of the city girls, or like yeah, on and off dating, whatever. Um, she has a podcast, and it's because of him, and like because well, one of the things in the lawsuits that Cassie stated was that while she was dating him, he made her have white nail polish. Like she had to have like white manicures and like pedicures, right? So with the city girl that he's dating right now, all the pictures when she's with Diddy, it's the white nail like manicure and the nail. So then they're like, because somebody else, she had gone on live with somebody else, and it was like a TikToker, and I think she was like trying to be funny, so he was like, "Oh, well, doesn't Diddy like you better as a man?" And like she kind of was like she laughed, but you could tell she was like, "Oh, how do I, like?" So she just laughed and she was like, "You're like too much." And um, so when that happened, they're like, lately they've been under her like posts and being like, "Why are you quiet? How come you're not saying shit?" Because she has the pod on Revolt, like she has,
Mm.
and they're like, that's why she's dating him. That's why she allows him to be like they're kind of like on and off open relationship or whatever because she'll be like, oh, that's my man, that's my man, that's my man, but then he's also someone else's man, and she's like, but it's all cool because we're just like dating, like casual dating. But I think it's because he's helping to fund these things because of course he's with Revolt, so like it's like a mutual agreement at that point. But they've been coming to her because they're like, are you okay? Because we're starting to see certain patterns and you're like staying very quiet in these
Mm-hmm.
moments, and you've been like, my man, my man, my man. So what do you have to say about these things?
Yeah.
Now and so I don't know, it's just crazy because I'm just like I was just like I just never took him to be like one of those people that would just have power like that, like
Yeah. Um, but I think he's does, or in the sense that he's
well
controlling
to be
because,
scared of him like that.
well, because I figure like again, for whatever reason, if they don't abide by his controlling like ways, he's gonna not only have them fired, he's gonna also have other people not work with them. You know, uh, someone had said, and I wish I would have saved the post, but someone said he didn't do J Lo like that, and my thing is like,
But he did.
but she got out,
Right.
and
She
because J Lo's
ran.
J Lo, you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
Cassie, had that potential, but what happened? She only had that one hit, and then boom, that's it. Like he was like, okay, that's about it. I got you, but you're gonna do everything that I say.
Well, no. So in the like yes and no, right? So they broke that down how that happened. So he was still with Kim, the one his
Here
the
we
one
go.
that was like he was
Here we go with these Irv Gotti's and what's the other guy from Hollywood uh who recently got incarcerated and try to act like he was suddenly disabled by walking out in a walker. Who was his name? Uh, damn, that guy from Hollywood. What the hell? That had all those, you know, accusers come out of the woodwork after so many years. What was his name? He was like a huge Hollywood mogul to himself.
oh, Weinstein?
Yeah,
Oh, okay,
Weinstein. You know, it's just a lot of these dudes that are in these positions, doing this type of shit, and for so long. And I think that's why there's that thing where you always heard over the years, like, unfortunately, people, fucking their way to the top because that's what they had to do. Otherwise, if you weren't playing their game or
okay.
putting out,
Hmm.
then you weren't gonna become an A-list actor. You know
Right,
what I'm saying?
absolutely.
Like you're gonna be in the indies or like you ain't.
Well, that was it.
Unfortunately,
That was the end of your career.
yeah.
So,
Try somewhere else. Good luck with that.
which
Uh,
wasn't because they would just get blackballed because he had connections everywhere.
and there's that exactly. Like, why go even so far to do that? Like, okay, just let them be and try to make it on their own. No, you gotta like blacklist them somewhere else.
Well,
Like,
no, because then that takes away from their power. They don't want to do that. They don't want to be like, oh right, like I just can let because like what's that thing? It's like you let one of the like smart ones get away or like around, and they're gonna go and group up with other people. And essentially, that's what ended up happening after so long. Someone finally was like, nope, I'm gonna speak out, even if that means I'm gonna lose my career.
uh huh.
They stood on business, and even if that meant they would no longer work.
There you go.
Um, so
The King Harris thing,
right.
lashing out.
So
Well, my point being is that he has power like that. He's in that position. Um, as a, I think he started off as a manager, and from there was able to, uh, you know, recruit talent, to produce for him, write for him, make sure that they became famous and all at the expense of him owning everything,
mm,
all the publishing. Like
well,
that's why you don't like you hear the same story out of all the bad boy artists. Like
well,
it's the
yeah.
same outcome.
Well, then and then just music artists in general about those 360 deals. Like they got really good. Like they really got that down to be like, we're just gonna screw the shit out of these like artists, and that's why they didn't like when eventually social media came and the independent artists were blowing up without their help. That scared them. Like.
Yeah, which is still funny to see that in to see that they still have a hand on that because regardless with that much power in your hand, they still somehow run the radio. Like they still have like some sort of like influence on having radio and other sorts of outlets blackball independent artists. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Well, it's like I told you, it's like with like they kind of made the structure of like how the mafia does, where like even if they don't cash out something or cash in something where they're like, oh, these favors you have to like, they'll come years down the line where it's like, remember that favor I did for you? I'm gonna need you to like, I'm gonna cash it out
There you
now, and
go.
I don't want you to do anything for this person because then I'm gonna call and you're just like, it just trickles down like that, like they're just everywhere. Now, what I was gonna say about the Cassie thing was he was with Kim and he already had like the one the son, right? He, I guess she must have caught his like eye or whatever, and he pretty much forced her. So like she had a boyfriend at the time, and he went as far as making up a show and saying like, oh, you're gonna be at like we're gonna have this show for you, and like they did a whole production for this fake show she was gonna do, meaning that she had to be there if she was wanting to get like the record. So they're like, see, like, and so she ended up telling like her boyfriend at the time, like, right, and then all he did all of that just to get her alone, right, and then got her like on drugs, and then eventually like, yeah, like kind of like forced her like after that point he kind of just had her doped up regularly, and then like she said that like he did like rape her and all these other things that like sex sex trafficking stuff that he did, and he would film it. So with those things I'm like, right, if he did that to a woman, right, oh, because the whole thing was like eventually then she what he ended up doing was like put her in an apartment, started buying her clothes, like fi- financing a whole lifestyle that she wouldn't be able to do on her own, right? So her as being someone that didn't have anything, I'm sure that was like what, like, but then if I say no, I lose all this, and then all these things. We just don't know what that's like when unless you're there, right? Apparently she tried to leave and he wouldn't, like he would be like that abusive to be like, no, you're gonna stay, like make her stay, right?
Mm-hmm.
He tricked her by telling her like signing a 10 album contract. And that's where that song came from, and that was the end of it. That was the end. Like
So
he let her like kind of be like, right, see, we're gonna do something, and then boom, nothing else happened after
yeah,
that.
grooming, man.
Yeah, yeah, and because she was like young, and like, and she didn't have a name for herself then. J Lo had like was already, like you said, J Lo. And when she saw, hey, this isn't what, she fucking left. She left with the chick that died, Kim, his like wife. I think it was his wife. I'm not sure. There's like reports where he broke her fucking nose and had to pay for plastic surgery. Cassie said that he made her get implants because he wanted her to have bigger boobs. And then what happened is, I guess they put them like whatever size he thought was gonna look good. Turned out it didn't look that good, right? He didn't like it. Went 1 week after she just had him done and told the doctor, take them out because they're too big. I don't like them to go. And the doctor was like, that's not safe. We can't, like, it's not safe. And he's like, I don't care. Like, so with the whole other stuff, I'm like, can you just imagine what he maybe did to these other artists? Like, we heard the thing about, like, I actually saw a clip about Usher, what's his name? Who's the guy that has the other radio show that's like big? He kind of has like the fluffy hair. He's like a white guy.
Oh, Howard Stern.
How him, right?
Yeah.
He's like, I guess he's like asking him about it, and he's like, hey, so yeah, like I know, like when you were like a teenager, 13, right? I don't really consider that a teenager, still a kid, right? He's like, you went to go, and he was like, I think, what did he say? It was like Puffy's Flavor Camp, some shit, right? Like weird ass name, right?
Yeah, I
And
know what
then
you're
you
talking
could
about.
just see how uncomfortable Usher is when they're bringing it up, because he's like as soon as he like, and because he's saying the name of the camp,
Yeah.
and then he's like, you could see how like how it's like, I guess maybe like it's even replaying the shit that he saw, right? He was like, yeah, like he was just kind of like, I don't know. And the fact that on the clip I didn't see, but they show later that he's like, they ask him like, oh well, if you had like a son or your son, would you allow him? And he was like, hell no. And I'm like, right, because he kept saying, like, he didn't answer in specifics, but he's just like, a lot of the shit that I saw there, he's like, I don't even know how to explain what I saw, but it was some like weird, like, and I'm like, right. And you stayed with him for a year.
Probably some underground basement Pulp Fiction type of stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know, but
man. Pac been trying to tell y'all, and
oh
that's why he had him killed.
yeah,
It makes sense.
oh yeah.
He was saying it from back then. I wouldn't, it's funny how we say is well, what's the saying, like, far from the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why? Why is it crazy to assume that now, especially at this point? Like, You know, he tells them in the song, but you and I know what's going on. Like, you know,
Yeah.
dropping names in there, and they all have connections to I don't even like saying his name. What kind of name is that? Type of bullshit name is that?
I know. I always thought it was like weird his how he did that. Like, ew, where'd you come up with that? You know?
Yeah. To even be calling him that, oh yeah, that's my boy, like hell nah.
Yeah. Some of these rappers are a little like I can't look at them the same way anymore. Like I'm like you guys are a little sus. Like I you know going back to like the thing with King where it's like or what would you say about the football player? How he was saying to Bison, like, why are you rapping about things you don't even know? It's like, honestly, I feel like a lot of these rappers didn't really live the lives that they said. But, right, like, who's really going to want to listen? And I can see where King's coming. He's like, right, well, no one wants to, hear about me rapping about living in a gated community. So, like, my inspiration needs to come from the hood. So I need to go back to find, like, to be authentic, like,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what we've labeled like especially nowadays when we say like remember before rappers would write about or like yeah would write about other like actual like drug dealers but now like it's the actual drug dealers just rapping about the shit they do. It's like different now. It's really the street dude actually just rapping about his life, whereas before the rappers were rapping about other people that live those lives, and
Mm-hmm.
so where does King fall in that when he's obviously not like living that life, but who's going to take him serious then because he doesn't have the stuff that's like relatable. So then he's like, right, I need to go to the hood, and meanwhile they're tearing him down for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
or other than that, just say, hey, I'm rapping about my dad.
right.
You know,
Well, like
he's my
Eminem did it.
inspiration.
Did
You
it
know,
by his mom.
yeah, talk shit about your dad,
Yeah.
like you know.
No, that's actually good because I'm sure people would like tune into that for
Yeah,
sure.
talk about his problems. You know,